welcome to the Let Beauty Guide You Health and Wellness podcast with your host, Chelsea Keene. Today, I'm very excited to announce we have Tanja. Tanja, you're going to have to pronounce your last name for me.
It's Begenisic.
Begenisic. Okay. Begenisic. So Tanja Begenisic is here today to talk to us about self-love, a very important topic. So she is a Hatha flow and restorative yoga teacher. She's also a Reiki healer and manager of Bliss Yoga Studio. And she runs Love Yourself Yoga Treats do you do it in just Haliburton County, Tanja?
Oh, no. We do it all over the place. Yeah, we do it all over the place, the retreats. Yeah.
Okay, great. And so, yeah, of course, she's a big advocate of self-love, and she's here today to share her philosophy and wisdom about self-love with us. So thank you for being here, Tanja. I'm so excited to chat with you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to chat with you, and I love that you're doing this. So thank you.
Great. So can you share with us about your self-love journey and why you're such a stand for self-love and why self-love is so important?
Yes. So I can definitely say that I can thank you for having me on here because I'm the most passionate about self-love and loving yourself. And I think it's obvious in all that I do, just day to day, the way that I present myself, the way that my retreats are called Love Yourself Yoga Retreats, and everything that I do in the retreats is all about that. All my classes are about loving yourself, connecting with yourself. And it's because that is the way that I not only discovered myself, that I saved myself from so many hardships and bad choices I had made in life. And really at the end of the day, I guess you could say no choice is a bad choice. It's just a choice at the point in time in life that you made. But it's what you do with it after. And when you realize that it is that self-love and that love and worship and value for yourself that allows you to make the better choices. So it was a kind of self-healing, self-discovery for me that led to self-love. So lately I've been on this train of putting things in an equation. For some reason, it's just coming to me. And that's exactly the way I see it, is that self-discovery plus self-healing equals self-love. And then from self-love, it's just a world of wonders and open doors and answers and things just naturally will attract you in terms of abundance and greatness and gratitude and compassion. So all those things that we all strive to live for, to have love, happiness, and peace in our lives, it has to begin from inside. A part of my journey was that realizing, as we're taught in society and naturally, we all start to look for that self-love and that reassurance, so that when we look in the mirror and then we see ourselves or hear ourselves, it's all external. And we work so hard on the external factor of our appearance, to our weight, to our hair, our makeup, and all these things. Investing tons of money in products, investing all this time and money and energy into something that someone told you, well, if you look this way, then you'll feel better. And if you buy this, then you'll feel better. So, just like everyone else, I did have things like that I did. And they were, trying to get more fit and trying to wear the right clothes, trying to wear more makeup, changing my hair color, you name it. I've had every hair color and all these different experimental things until I realized that something was changing and that I wasn't happy. And after, you throw in there unhappy relationship or a job that you're not happy at, and you throw in different factors. I'm so sorry. That was my laundry.
That's okay. We're at home,
noise,
guys. That's how it goes.
My laundry. Exactly. Oh man. And so there's another example of self-love. Only do your laundry when it's convenient. And I don't do it in the days because anyway, so back to what I was saying. And it was just, when you throw all these things, you naturally also start to blame those factors around you and say, well, it's my job, or it's my boyfriend, or my husband, or my girlfriend. And you start to find reasons. You're looking outside and externally for all these things that now you're using as excuses, as why you're unhappy. So once I started to kind of go down that road, and naturally and thankfully it is yoga and meditation that led me to that kind of discovery of realizing, wait a second, let me work on the inside. Like how do I feel inside? And it's almost, something as simple as, I'm not going to look at myself in the mirror for a while. I'm not going to judge myself, others, the job, my husband, whatever it is, and I'm going to look inside. And it was through looking inside and doing that kind of onion peeling, layering, kind of
The layers of
discovery.
self-development. Yeah.
Yes. Oh my gosh, so many layers, and they never end. They never
They
end.
never
They
end. The
just get a
work is
little
never
more.
done.
Yeah, it's never done, but
It's
it
never
get
done.
more. How do I explain it? It's like subtle, or you can handle it better because you've been through the rut of it, like peeled that,
Absolutely.
like the thick layers, right? You peeled those really thick, annoying layers, starting that first core of the onion and all that.
Yeah.
So it was when that started to happen that I realized, like, holy crap. I'm like, this is all the stuff that I didn't know was hindering me from being happy. And that's when I realized I didn't love myself, or I didn't love myself truly, or I thought I did. And it was one of those things we tend to lie to ourselves. And it's funny because you project this onto others. So I remember saying to my ex-husband, at the time was my husband, I remember saying to him, it was always things of like blaming him, and you're acting this way, and you don't love yourself, so you can't love me. So it was all those things I was saying to him were essentially true, but they're also true on my part, because I became
Absolutely.
so consumed in this other life that wasn't me, that I lost the worth and value in myself, therefore loving myself. So my loving journey began I can't remember exactly the year, but let's say it was 2015, 2016, when I truly started to dedicate that time. And it was a roller coaster, because you have to make some really drastic changes, changes your environment, changes at home, just in your social life, at work. And you can't make those changes once. Otherwise, we'd all just go crazy and run around, like
Yeah.
crazy people
Slow
around the
process.
world. It's like without, exactly. So, and it was funny because the biggest part of that was, yeah, I knew it was going to be a journey and it was going to be tough. But once I had that mindset and awareness that the key there, the key ingredient was loving myself, everything just kind of naturally started to flow and it started to happen. And it was that idea of putting yourself first, that idea of setting boundaries, that idea of stepping back, knowing when to say no, and knowing how to say no to people and things that don't make you happy, that don't serve you, that don't fill you. So that's really kind of the long story short of my self-love discovery. And then there's just many ways that I kind of got to that journey. And like I said, the biggest thing that I'm so thankful for, and it's ironic how I discovered it later in life, was yoga and just breath and meditation, things that are so simple, and that really don't have to be complicated, and something that anyone can do, that really helped me, along with just doing things that you never really, maybe had a chance to do, or you just always found something else that kept you busy, like for example, you do dance and you incorporate it into your life, into your job, into everything you do, and I love that. And I like, especially I love dancing. I danced my whole life, and it was one of those, another thing that I stopped doing. And
Mm.
naturally, when you're in an environment or relationship with someone who doesn't like a lot of the same things you do, you stop asking for them and needing to do them, and therefore you start losing those parts of yourself that you love and that you're passionate about. And then years later down the road, you're like, oh my gosh, I love to dance. It makes me feel free. It makes me feel happy. I feel like a child, or whatever it is the feeling is. Or picking up an old instrument that you played, or reading more books, or just going for a long walk by yourself. And these things become so beautiful. I remember when I started to do them all over again, it was just one emotional, breakdown after another, but in a positive sense, because you're so overwhelmed by that beauty and happiness that you have inside you, that you're just, I mean, I'm openly saying, because I wear my heart on my sleeve, I cried a lot. There's
Yeah.
a lot of crying that needs to happen for it to happen and to come out. So yeah.
Totally. It's a
I'll
whole
just pause
process.
there. Yeah.
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 It's a whole process of development for sure. But one thing that I really like that you said, that you pointed to, was that part of self, like some people think, oh, self-love just looks like taking a bubble bath, or,
Yeah.
you know, but what you pointed to is self-love is also about being responsible. Like, you are responsible for your emotions. You're responsible for the way you interpret things, and you're responsible for your mental garden, if you will, so uh,
Yeah.
yeah, I love how you pointed that out. Like, and I'm just reading this book, the a Louise Hay book. I forget the title of it now, but she talks about that, like, our relationships are mirrors for what's going on with us. So if we're putting
Yep.
blame on someone else, what we should really be doing is looking at ourselves and wondering how we're creating that conflict, or that dynamic, or that frustration, how we're attracting that, how we're contributing to that dynamic. So
A
yeah.
hundred, 100%. Is it by any chance, you can heal your life, or is it
I
another
think
one?
it's that one, but she has a
Yeah.
few titles, so I'm not sure.
Yeah.
They're all kind of like the same vibe, I assume.
Yeah. Yeah. No, they're the best. She really breaks it down very, very well. And that's exactly what it is when you start to look at it from, it's projections, it's triggers, it's all these things. And you step back and you evaluate yourself more, as opposed to constantly evaluating others. And then
Mhm.
once you start to evaluate yourself, essentially you're kind of doing that, you're doing a little bit of analysis and research on yourself, and doing that work on the mental and the emotional. um, then you're able to have a clear picture of what you do see in that person, and then eventually you might look at them and say, oh, that behavior, like, that wasn't even them, like, that was me. Or what you thought was something wrong with another person, that it was you. I mean, at the same time, there are still going to be things that you're going to look at and say, like, yeah, I was right about that, and this
Yeah,
can or cannot work.
yeah.
And that goes for friendships, it goes for family, it goes for everything. Like, you essentially start to apply it everywhere, and you only explain yourself people only to the point where, you know if someone wants to hear something, if someone wants to be involved in some kind of conversation or solution. And that was one of the things that was a hard discovery for me, was, people look at things from their own perspective. You can't change people's perspectives. So once I started to go on this journey, and was, very organically, like, loving myself, and just, like, almost keeping to myself, and, all the changes, people will come and be like, oh, look at her, she's being this way, or she's not around anymore, or she's being selfish. Like, you get all these labels and, assumptions and judgment, and you kind of have to just, like, flick it off, like a fly, and just say, you know
Absolutely.
what, that's fine. Like, this might take months or years, but this is who I am now. And whoever loves you and understands you will be there. And guess what? I've seen it with my own eyes. Everyone who doubted me, including friends and family, now come around, and they may not say directly, oh, I was wrong, or you were right. And that's not important. That doesn't need to be
No.
said.
Yeah.
It shows in their ways, and their behaviors, and their emotions, and their words, and just all these different ways that you're just like, you feel good because you've let go of ego, so you don't need, that kind of reassurance from anyone. But you know that, what, all I knew is that I had to focus on myself and live by example. And then eventually everyone does come around and understands, and being able to have any impact and influence on a people, even a tiny bit, is just the most beautiful thing. Like, people come to me all the time and ask me, what did you do, how do you do it? I love that you're all about loving yourself. And like you said,
Mhm.
it's so much
Mhm.
more than taking a bath and getting a facial.
Yeah.
That is, like, again, I feel very, anyone can do. It's external, it's more surface level,
Mhm.
and it's beautiful. Like, I had a
It's
beautiful
great.
bath the other
Yeah.
night.
Yeah.
And I incorporate, yeah, it's like, it's great to do, it's very nice, and I encourage everyone to do that. But it's just, there's so many other things and other ways, and I'm not going to preach and say that it's easy. It's not.
Mhm.
Loving yourself takes a lot of work, just like any relationship does, but the
Yeah.
relationship with yourself is the most important one. So you
Mhm.
got to do the work.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's a daily practice, you know, it's not like you just like one day wake up, I love myself, and then it's over.
Yeah.
Like it is a daily moment by moment practice. It is a maintenance. It's a lifestyle. It's a commitment. It's everything, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so along with
Definitely.
that, what so what are some other ways that you can practice self-love, and how do you address this topic of self-love in your classes?
So one way is you have to look from the different aspects of, naturally, and I think most easiest ways for people to look at it is physically, right? So if you approach it, and like I do many ways in classes or when I talk to people, I start with that and I say, you may see yourself, or when you touch yourself, like for example, when you tell someone to do a breathing exercise and they touch their belly and they don't feel comfortable because maybe they feel like they're overweight or underweight. So right away you're like, okay, how do I get them to disconnect from that
Mm,
feeling they're attached to, that they are not happy with their bodies? Because that's like an instant. So ways in working with that is just basically, talking people through, guiding them to understand that this is not about what you feel and see on the outside or on your physical body. It's about what your belly is on the inside, which is your gut. It's your emotions, it's your intuition, it's all these things that you want to connect to and that are important on how you feel. It's not about what you see in the mirror or what you're touching yourself. And we're so hard on ourselves and we're like, oh, I feel a little bit of fat, or I feel like some rolls. It's like, guess what? Those are natural. We
yeah.
all have them. And it doesn't even matter what weight you are.
No.
And just kind of explaining to people there's nothing I love more than guiding people to get into the inside, like into the inside of themselves, so that in the beginning of a class, for example, when I teach a yoga class or when I'm just having a conversation with someone, they might, you're in that physical mind state. It's all about your appearance. It's all about how you feel and look. And then just by the end of it, bringing them to the awareness that it's how you feel on the inside, and that it doesn't matter if you do, any simple, whether it's a breathing exercise, a meditation, whether it's a gentle class, a dance class, or even something more vigorous. It's about how do you feel on the inside? Like, are you radiating happiness and joy while you're doing this? When you're finished, before you even look in the mirror and say, "Oh, let me see let me see my results." It's like, don't look at those results. Look at how you're feeling on the inside. Like, does it make you feel warm and bubbly inside when you do this? Because that's coming to the present and bringing awareness to what is happening on the inside, and it ties to everything. It ties to your emotional and mental state. It ties to your health. Like, we are literally, by giving ourselves and showing ourselves love and time and energy, we're making sure our bodies are healthy. Like, we're giving them the love that they need more than any pill or supplement or food could do, because of that self-love and that, awareness. So definitely the biggest thing is bringing that awareness to the inside. And that's the scary part. So in sense that people, once they close their eyes, and that's why a lot of people avoid, coming to that present or getting meditation, because they're alone with their thoughts, and their thoughts are telling them, you know the truth and things that they don't want to face, and that is their true feelings about themselves, right? So
Mhm.
that's why it's so important to do that and just overcome that fear and say, well, this is what you need to face, though. Otherwise, this feeling or this unhappiness is going to stay with you forever, no matter what you do. Even if you go and build a new face,
Yeah.
and even if you go and get an entirely new wardrobe and become like the fittest person in the world, that feeling is still going to be there. And there are millions of people out there who have gone on this journey, and they will openly say that when they were at their, best looking phase, or when they had the most money, they were not happy until they discovered doing the inner work, until they discovered, just something as simple as, well, let me learn how to breathe properly. Let me learn
Mhm.
how to be with myself in stillness. And I emphasize that so much. And I spend at least 5 to 10 minutes in the beginning of each class, you know, getting people into that present moment and just saying, you are right here, right now, disconnecting them from everything that is either going on, disconnecting them from judgment, disconnecting them from all of those feelings that are naturally constantly haunting us because we put so much pressure on ourselves. And we put pressure on ourselves because society does. And this has been going on for, for centuries. And we can easily blame our parents, but it's like, well, they were conditioned that way. So it's not on us to fix our parents, to fix, the future, to fix the present or anyone or anything around us. It's on us just to fix ourselves. And that is the most important work you can do, because then it projects onto your family, projects onto your friends, your work, your surroundings. And it really does begin with that simple act of self-love that can be done in such a way that all you can experience then is harmony in your life, because you chose to love yourself. And of course, like I said, it might be easiest to do that physically, even in terms of, pleasure and all these things. That's a whole other topic we can get into another day. But it is so important. It is so, so important. And in many cultures around the world, it's still a taboo topic, or even in just generally in many people's lives. But that's why I say, well, begin with just loving, yourself. You don't have to have another person love you and please you. You can do that yourself.
Absolutely.
And another way to do that, so another way to do that emotionally and mentally is doing the things that stimulate you in that way. So it's not just about the physical pleasure, pleasure or sexual pleasure. It's about the emotional and mental pleasure. Like, I get very excited when I read something new and it resonates with me. It's like my whole body tingles. That's a pleasure. That's like me giving myself love. Right? Same way as if you do something nice for someone, that's a pleasure. It's all these little things that you can do, or taking an hour of the day to yourself to do whatever it is that you want to do, and that you're disconnecting from the outside world and all that's going on. Right? So of course, being a yoga instructor and this being my life, and it's a lifestyle, I do talk about it a lot, and I do mention that was my kind of key ingredient, is that self-love. And I found it through yoga and meditation, because that's when you really come to yourself. That's when I feel like you learn what you're all about. And once you discover your self-love, then you can discover it in everyone else, and you naturally attract that. So there's just many, many beautiful ways.
Great. Yeah. I love what you pointed to as well, is like, self-love also looks like self-acceptance, right? So if you're meditating and you notice, oh, I had a bad thought about myself, it doesn't mean that you don't love yourself. It's just, you're just noticing that was there, and then you can release it, right? So it's like in the acceptance of yourself, and sometimes the negative talk we have about ourselves, if we can just accept it, then we can let it go, and it doesn't need to have power over us, right? So it's in that acceptance, that's where the love really is.
Yes, no, definitely. It's exactly what it's accepting. It's accepting not only, yourself and exactly the way you are, the way that you were brought into this earth, into this body, which I look at as a bodysuit. It's our souls that are here, that are living, that are experiencing what we're experiencing, to have this beautiful human experience. But our bodies it's a tool. It's like a suit to get you by. So it's taking away that, sheer importance we put on it, and put that importance on the inside. Because the funny thing is, and the best part about it is, when you do that work on the inside and love yourself from the inside, that's when the beauty shines on the outside, truly. That's when you can, walk out of the house and be like, maybe I don't feel like putting makeup on today, and you're still shining, and people will still look at you and say, you're glowing, you're beautiful. It's because it's on the inside. And I've been saying that for years now, when people have told me, like, what changed and blah, 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 and you look like you've changed. Like, I've actually had people tell me that my face has physically transformed in a way, but it hasn't. If anything, I've gotten older. So I'm like, interesting. And then I say to them, I'm like, honestly, it's just from the inside. That's all I say. I'm like, it's from the inside. That this is what you see is my beauty from the inside. It's my soul. That's exactly what it is. And then back to the acceptance piece is, so once you're accepting yourself for who you are, you also have to accept all that comes along, all those emotions, right? So every time when you are feeling sad, angry, or dealing with a current situation or a past situation, whatever it is that comes up, you just accept it. You allow it. Those are feelings are okay. There's no one that, there's nowhere that it says, I mean, I'm sure it does, but I'm saying it doesn't mean that, that these feelings we're not supposed to have. Whatever the feelings are, we're supposed to experience all of them. It's very natural, and you allow them. And that's one thing that I learned through when I started to discover what Buddhism was all about and what Buddha was all about. And that's exactly what he did. He went on a journey of self-discovery, and he in that he discovered himself and the ways of healing oneself, the ways of loving oneself. He discovered it through not only traveling and interacting with people in different cultures and experiences, running into problems, having all kinds of, anger and frustration and all these things. You have to experience them, because that's what makes you who you are. And you just have to accept them. You have to allow things to ride out. And of course, when you get a feeling that, is more negative, in the sense of like you're feeling low or you're feeling angry, you have to bring that awareness to say, well, why am I feeling this way? Like not dig too deep where it consumes you, but dig in a way to say, why did I just react this way? Why am I feeling this way? I'm not going to let this take over my entire day. I'm not going to let this, ruin my week or whatever it is. But guess what? Sometimes when you get into that rut and you feel like crying for hours or a whole day, then you should cry. And trust me, it will be so worth it, because after that crying is done, you will have literally lifted up to some other level. You feel so good for whatever it is that you just released, because that's all it is. Every frustration, every emotion that we have is a way of releasing, and releasing that's the work that we're talking about on the self-love. But with every release, everything, you get lighter, life gets lighter. Problems are not problems anymore. You start to look at everything as, well, it just is. And that's, you make the best of your surroundings, right? So look at the scenario we're all in right now with the pandemic. People have started to finally step back and say, well, what can I do to make the best of my time? And now all around me, I'm seeing people doing exactly that, is giving themselves self-love, going for walks in nature, reading books, getting back into hobbies and interests that they haven't done in years. And that to me is self-love, because now they're happy. They're letting go of the fear and anxiety that has consumed them, that has consumed all of us. And it's so beautiful to see. And that is all also self-love.
Totally. Yeah, I love everything you're saying.
Sorry if I going on too much. I told you picked a topic that is like, I live,
it's great.
Breathe.
No, it's great. It's just giving me an abundance of things to respond with. And I know it's really fascinating. Like, the other thing too is that when you have that love for yourself and that space for your own humanity, then you can have that space for other people's humanity as well. So it's really, and because we are all connected, when we love ourselves, we can love other people, right? So,
yes,
if we don't have any space for our own humanity, we just can't put up with anything else from anyone else. That doesn't work.
Yeah.
We've got to be kind. We've got to be kind to ourselves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
100%. Right. And the power of the mind is so phenomenal. So your thoughts mean literally everything. And people, how, you think that if you think or say something, it doesn't mean anything. Right? It's like, I hate myself, or I don't like the way I look. Well, you're just going to feel that. You're sending those feelings, that message, that communication to your entire body, and it's going to project outwards. Same way as if you say, people who are very judgmental, if you judge others and you make fun of others or you gossip, that's a reflection of yourself. Those you're showing your insecurities, right? And so it's just bringing awareness that everything you say and everything you think matters, and that that takes work, being able to catch yourselves in moments where you're like, well, if I say this, well, it really is going to happen. It is going to come true. And that's another huge thing that, has a part to do with this whole self-love, and finding that happiness and peace within yourself is being able to have, control and awareness of your thoughts and what comes out of your mouth, knowing that it will manifest. And I've tested it. I've tested it over the years. Every time I've said or thought something, that I want to happen, or something positive, it has happened. And every time I've said something negative, it literally happens. It's sometimes instantly. And you're like, oh, why did I do that? Why did I say that? The harder we are on ourselves, it will reflect in your life. So if you keep saying, I have no money, or I hate my job, it's just going to be like that for as long as you keep saying that, for as long as you keep thinking that. And it's until the day you say, you know what? I want to change. I want to change something. I deserve better. I know I valued so much more than what I'm doing right now, right? So I'm just using job as an example because I went through that journey as well. And it's just, when you start to love yourself, you start to realize that maybe the job that you're in is not fulfilling. Maybe it's soul crushing, and you're like, wait a second, I deserve better than this. I don't want to do this. And then it's on you to make a change for yourself, not to go around and tell others, hey, this sucks, let's all change. It's like, no, just go on your own journey, fix your own journey, like focus on yourself. I find a lot of people do make that mistake where they discover something and then it's like, well, now I want to go tell the whole world to do it. It's like, wait and see how it goes for you, right? It's like, years ago I wouldn't have talked about this stuff because I hadn't seen the results fully. It was like I was just uncovering how powerful it can be. But now I love to talk about it because I'm like, well, look at how many years have gone by and where I am and what has happened, and that's because of that simple ingredient of loving yourself and applying it to everything around you, like everything that you do, everything that you say, and just being aware of that.
Yeah, words create worlds, right? Like we really do create our lives with what we speak about, what we put out into the world. So, yeah.
100%. Yeah.
So can you break down for us, like what exactly happens on your self-love yoga retreats? Like what's the process like? And maybe what kind of breakthroughs do you see people having on your retreats?
So we definitely, one of the things that is very important with this whole, bringing attention and awareness to yourself is disconnecting yourself from your current state. So if it's your job, your family, your friends, the city, and most of all, your phone. Our phones and social media, as much as they can be great and have very many positive aspects, they can also be very negative, right? And especially, reading the news and having all this pressure from, I should buy this and I should look that way. And so those are all the key factors that, are number one when it comes to, my retreats. And obviously, even when I do classes, I try to tell people like, okay, I know it's only an hour, but completely disconnect from all that. Leave your phone outside the room. So in the retreat, same thing. I make sure that it's in a very beautiful place where they can completely feel like they're almost on another planet, disconnected from everything and everyone. So that's why I'm very particular in the places I choose to make the retreats. They kind of have to have a lot of different components, which I won't give away everything, but you can see a lot of that stuff just like through my pictures and what we advertise. So a lot of those components have to do with that whole idea of feeling zen completely while you're there. So the interior, the exterior, the surroundings, the nature, because we include a schedule, and in the schedule obviously there's some daily yoga and meditation, but then there's a lot of free time where they get to do things that are all about self-discovery and self-love and self-healing. And that can be something as simple as an activity of painting, activity of reading, dance. Like there's so many things that we include and we give them options of what to do. And people open up so much and they release so much that it's so beautiful to see, like from the beginning of the retreat to the end, it's like two different people every single
Wow.
time. Everyone has had a tremendous, and I'm talking like 3 days here. This is not even long. Like, and it just goes to show you what can happen in such a little time. That's why I want to grow the retreats to be even longer. Like my next one is actually going to be 4 days. So I'm like little bit by little bit going to be adding on days because yeah, of course I want people to, have that convenience and be able to say, okay, I can get away for 3 days. Great. I'm always going to have that as an offer, but I also want them to see how much more they can get out of, an extra day or an extra night. So we do a lot of also scheduled activities where, it's just immersing yourself in nature and grounding. And it's so beautiful when you get to do it, with a group of like-minded people, when you get to have discussions that you normally wouldn't, maybe with people at home. And it's just that creating that very safe and vulnerable environment where you can just open up and be yourself entirely, to the point where you're like, oh wow, I feel like my 12-year-old self. Like that is the goal, like bringing out that
Mhm.
beauty
Inner
and that
child.
purity from what exactly. Definitely. So a lot of inner child stuff. um and just grounding, right? So just being one with nature and able for all of that to happen, to come out and to release. um Sorry, just speaking of phones, so the one thing I mentioned, I forgot to mention about that, is that when they come in, I always have a
Mhm.
box where everyone has to leave their phone.
Yeah. Great.
And of course, yes, so of course we designate like 2 times of the day, especially people with families, that they can check their phone. And everyone has been so great about it, because they realize, like, oh my gosh, I feel reborn without my phone. And of course they go in, they check in a couple times a day with their with their kids or families or work, and that's it. And that enhances your experience to a whole new level. That completely changes the game.
Yeah.
And then the best part is also, we do a lot of, there's a lot of individual things, but there's a lot of group activities, which are so fun, because you're getting that, that feeling of helping each other, working as a team. Um, they get very much catered to. So there's a lot of retreats you go to where people, it's like kind of community environment, and everyone helps with cooking and cleaning and stuff like that. But in my retreats, I wanted to change it up a bit, where everyone's being spoiled and catered to. So I thought, yeah, and I love it because I know how it feels, and I want them to completely not have to think or do anything, and just simply be there for themselves. So while we're doing the cooking and the cleaning and all that, they have time to just to rest, to journal. Like I definitely encourage journaling. It's huge, and a lot of people discovered it just through my retreats. um, to read, to go for a walk, to make a new friend. Like there's been many people have like come out with new friendships. It's so beautiful. But definitely by the end of the weekend, I end up hearing a lot of beautiful releasing and testimonials, and just the benefit has been tremendous, like in terms of you know life changing, and things that come up they never even knew had something that they needed to address or deal with, and everyone comes back with such a positive outlook and attitude, and then they apply it continuously into their life. And that's it. For some people it's maybe midway through their journey. For some it's the beginning of their journey. And then when they talk to me months later or a year later, I see how far they've come. It's just phenomenal. And it just makes me want to do so much more and give them even more tools and resources to keep doing that. Another key thing that we do at our retreats is, and I'm sure you saw this, is the photo sessions.
Yes.
So that one's yeah, so I love that. It's a huge component of it, because we were like, okay, we have all these things, and we catered everything around, theming it all around self-love, self-discovery, being with yourself. We even have workshops and, about yoga, about eating, healthy nutrition, all this stuff. But then we're like, this would be so cool because we can include one-on-one photo sessions with
Mhm.
each individual, and imagine what that will do for their self-esteem and self-love. And almost every single time, every single one of them comes in with like this shyness, and some of them didn't want to do it at all. And then they bloomed into these beautiful, like women, like exploding with love and beauty and sexiness and all these things that they had no idea they even had in themselves. And I'm
That's
talking like
awesome.
all ages. So we had, people in their 20s to all the way people in their 50s and 60s. And just seeing their pictures come out, I literally remember the first retreat we did, and I looked at the pictures of some of them, and I was just crying because it was just, I can't even explain the feeling of seeing how much you can discover about yourself when you just release and let go. And a big part of that is definitely, it's on the other end of that lens, and that's the photographer Alexandra, and you know her.
Yeah.
And she's there to make you feel comfortable. You don't have to do anything. You literally just have to be there. And she does such a good job at it that women themselves are shocked at how they naturally just get into it after a few pictures. And then all of a sudden you see, when you feel it, and then when you see the photos, I've seen them I've visually seen them crying when they see their own photos. Like, I can't believe that's me. I'm like, but see, that's you. That's that beauty I was talking about on the inside. That's coming from outside. That's your inner child, your inner beauty, literally shining through in these photos. And you can see that because we do it in a way that it's a fun, spontaneous setting and environment, and it's not like your typical, okay, sit down, smile, photo shoot, because that's very physical exterior, right? We do it in a way where they get to have fun. They get to dress up in whatever they want to wear. We do like, fun things that they can do out in nature. And yeah, a huge component of that is the photos as well, which I love so much.
It's so cool. It must be just amazing to witness those transformations. And to me, like what I hear in all of it too is that it's your self-love for yourself that actually created the space for all these
Yeah.
other people to love themselves, right? So it's like it started from you, and then that like trickled into everyone else's transformation. So I just think that's totally beautiful. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, it's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. And that's why I'm so passionate about it. And I know that, whoever that resonates with and can see that, that will get to experience that. And it's so beautiful. We actually have, our next one is scheduled right now, end of May, and we've had to move it out because of the pandemic.
Yeah, right.
But we're scheduling a later date in June. And it's funny because all the ladies that have booked, we've been touching base with them, and we're like, hey, is everyone still on board? And not as, except for one girl. There's one person who canceled, and she's actually pregnant right now. But everyone else is just like, yep, I'm on board. Like, they were ready to do it even if it was still end of May. I was like, listen, we really want to, but like we might get arrested or something. So
Yeah.
so now we have to push it to a later date. And then as soon as we get this one done, we're going to start planning the next one. In the future, we're going to start doing them abroad as well. So that's
Oh,
going to be exciting as
incredible.
well.
So good. It's such
Yeah.
good stuff. Yeah, and speaking of beautiful things, one thing that I ask all my guests on the Let Beauty Guide You podcast is, what are 3 ways you let beauty guide you in life?
So I guess the first one would be, well, along with the theme that I've been saying, is being with myself in whatever way, whether that's when I'm, just doing yoga, meditation, or doing dancing. Like, I love dancing at sunset. That to me is the most beautiful and one of the most arousing feelings.
Mhm.
And I just kind of allow my body, like, surrender into that feeling. Another way is the way that I nourish myself, because I feel like that also is helping me sustain my health and my healthy lifestyle. So that beauty that I'm building on the inside then projects on the outside, and it's feeling good about what you put into your body and how much you're nourishing it. I think is so beautiful. Like, I look at food, especially some of the things that I put my time and heart and love into making it. And I'm like, this is so beautiful. And then you have this newfound respect and love for food. It's building that relationship as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, food is huge because I love it so much, and I struggled for a long time to stay away from the things that my body does not like, which I think we all struggle with. You're like, you should not be eating that.
Yeah.
So finding alternatives in terms of like food and drinks as well, but also, treating yourself and indulging when you feel like it. That is another huge thing I find that makes me happy is, if I feel like having a few drinks or having a bucket of ice cream, I'll do it once in a while and I won't feel bad for it. So
Yeah.
that's another thing, is like not being so hard on yourself, not like letting go of guilt and shame, and just doing what makes you happy and doing everything in balance and moderation. So that was kind of two things. And then I guess the third thing would be, um, hmm, for me, it's connecting with others, especially connecting with women, and talking and bringing out their inner beauty. It really, really fulfills me in a way that it melts my heart to know what other women are feeling, what they're going through, and being able to help them in any sort of way. Um, and just I just seeing the beauty in anyone. That's really, I guess that's the number one thing, is like, now that you asked that question, it just makes perfect sense to me. It's like, letting beauty guide you. That's what it does to me. I see the beauty in every single person. I see the beauty
Mhm.
in everything. Like, I'll stare sometimes at a plant or a flower or even a table, and I'll be like, it's so beautiful. And then
Yeah.
that's the same way, like, I'll look at people, and it does not matter what they look like, their skin color, their shape, their height, their what they're wearing, and being able to see past all that, almost having like that x-ray vision where you can just see the beauty in everyone. And sometimes, depending on the time of the month, like it will make me cry in a beautiful way, because I
Mhm.
see one, and I just wish that everyone could see themselves the way that I see them. I wish they could see
Mhm.
themselves through my eyes, because it's nothing but sheer beauty.
Yeah, that's very moving, and it sounds like you allow yourself to be moved by other people's beauty and the beauty in all things. So, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. I hope I answered your question.
Absolutely. That was awesome. Food is
Mm,
healing,
okay, good.
checking in with yourself, and then also just where it sounds like you just are mindful of where you place your focus, right?
Yeah.
You actively choose how you see the world and how you see other people, which I think is another important thing too, is that all of this is choice. It's such a choice, right? We can
100%.
choose to see the beauty in things, or we can choose to see the ugliness, and it's
Hmm.
really up to us.
It is. It is. It's the glass half full or half empty.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so thank you so much for sharing all your wisdom and everything that you're up to. It's very inspirational. And I'm obviously in awe of the way that you contribute to people and who you are for people. So thank you, Tanya. One last thing, last but not least, if our listeners want to work with you, either they want to attend your classes or your workshops, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
You can get in touch with me through email or social media. So my email is Tanja.Begenisic, which I'm sure you'll have posted on the podcast, at gmail.com, or
Mhm.
directly through the Bliss Yoga Anywhere. So it's either Tanja at blissyogastudio.net. And my Instagram is Tanja B444. And if a lot of people are probably wondering why, there's a whole story behind that. I believe in numbers and numerology and synchronicity and all that stuff. So that's been my number literally since I can remember.
Wow.
And then, as well as, definitely, if anyone wants to get in touch or try any of my classes and your classes, they can go to Bliss
Mhm.
Yoga Anywhere, through our website or our social media. We have an Instagram account, a Facebook account, and we're doing lots and lots of great things. I actually just want to quickly announce I had a nice talk with the owners today, and we have big things planned. We're making a bigger and better platform for this whole online world. I'm so excited. It's going to be great. And it already is that we get to have that live connection with people. So we're not just offering them a live class, but also that interaction and connection online. And so far it's been great. I'm embracing and loving the online world. I went from, glass almost half empty to being like, nope, I got to fill it up. This is the way now. I got to make this work online, and it's working. So I'm very excited. So join us online.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Tanja, for being on the podcast. And to all our listeners, thank you so much for listening. And if you liked this episode, please feel free to rate and review it. And we'll catch you on the next episode. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.